Again, good morning and happy homecoming. Many of you have probably heard me say this several times over the last 2 days, but there is no better way to describe this weekend than with a happy homecoming. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Katie Kraus. I'm a 2011 graduate, and I now have the privilege of working with all of you as the Director for Alumni Engagement. I am so glad to see all of you here on this lovely fall day as we recognize the 2019 Alumni Award recipients. Being an alumna of the University of Dubuque, I am especially honored to be here with you today in this place that we all hold so near and dear to our hearts. For me personally, this award ceremony is especially fun as I have had the privilege of working with a couple of today's honorees on event committees, not only here on campus, but around the country. And for those of you who I have just met in the last 24 hours, it's been great to get to know you, and I am so glad to be here today to celebrate you. On behalf of all of us in the Advancement and Alumni Engagement Office, congratulations. This event is one of my favorites of the entire weekend, and in my opinion, is really the most wonderful time of the year. I mean, think about it. Our Spartan family and friends have traveled near and far to be with us today. If you have checked in at homecoming registration, you've been gifted some pretty awesome Spartan swag. There is an abundance of wonderful food. But most importantly, we have all returned to our campus home to reminisce on the good old days and make new memories with our Spartan family and friends. So once again, happy homecoming and welcome home. A few fun stats about this year's homecoming. So far, we have had 645 people register for homecoming 2019. We are hosting 26 events for alumni and friends, and of these events, they have totaled over 600 hours of planned, 60 hours of planned homecoming festivities. We have 10 groups that are hosting individual tailgates at the 3rd annual Spartan Fest, and this afternoon, we get to watch the 12th annual Key City Clash and cheer on our Spartans to their 9th straight victory over Loras College. There is no doubt that this is indeed the most wonderful time of the year. We hope you have all enjoyed the homecoming festivities so far. Today is bound to be another fun-filled day. And as we like to say, it is a great day to be a Spartan. Thank you. And now I would like to welcome Reverend Dr. Jim Gunn forward to lead us in a blessing before brunch.
If you would, please join me in prayer. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, who are we that you are even mindful of us, and yet you have blessed us and have poured out grace upon grace. You have created us, you have sought to redeem us so that we may be the people you have intended us to be, and you have sustained us on the journey of life and of faith. On this occasion of homecoming, help us to know that in this world we do have a place, a home in it, because you, Lord God, are a God by whose side we fit nicely, and you are with us. I am thankful for this place, the University of Dubuque, and how it has become a home to so many. Thank you for those who have gathered. Thank you for a chance to remember and celebrate. Bless this food to our bodies. Give us health and strength, and bless our fellowship to one another. Amen. Thank you.
Well, on behalf of the University of Dubuque, it is a pleasure to welcome you today as we celebrate this year's Alumni Achievement recipients. Before we get started, I do need to just ask a question. Are there any Loras Duhawks in the room today? Okay. Well, we have a saying around here, it's a great day to be a Spartan. You may have seen that on the back of the t-shirts. So today, it's a really great day to be a Spartan. So thank you all for being here. This is one of our favorite events of homecoming. As I read through both the nominations and the bios of these recipients, I was struck at how accomplished this group was professionally. But in particular, I was overwhelmed by the amount of service that they've provided to their communities and to worthwhile organizations. We tell our students that we're more concerned about how they leave us versus how they come to us, and we are very grateful to each of our recipients today for being such wonderful role models. To begin our presentations, I actually use our president's own words. If you've read Child of the Church, you know that he says in reference to the university, "It is a school that chooses not to draw undue attention to itself, but rather lets the achievements of its graduates and their commitments to service in ministry, education, nursing, business, aviation, and many other areas be the source of its ongoing testimony." Thank you to each of our recipients today for being that testimony for the University of Dubuque. We'll begin our awards today with our Alumnus of Distinction, John Couchman. I promised him I would say nice things, even though his sons were trying to give me all kinds of dirt on their dad. He graduated in 1969, so he's celebrating his 50th reunion this year with a degree in history. After graduate school at the University of Minnesota, he served for 17 years working in the mental health field, both as a therapist and an administrator. He spent a second career at the St. Paul Foundation, where he was vice president of grants and programs, granting over $685 million to improve the lives of those in the community. Programs he was involved with addressed literacy, racism, economic growth, and construction. Remaining active in retirement, he volunteers for a variety of organizations in the community and has served as a UD trustee for over 13 years. Please join me in congratulating John Couchman, a wonderful champion for the University of Dubuque, and this year's Alumnus of Distinction.
I'm going to do my best to speak into the microphone. I sometimes wander, so my wife will put her hand up if I get too far astray from the microphone. I want to start by just thanking the University of Dubuque and everyone that was involved in giving me this honor. It truly is an honor, and I'm honored and humbled to receive it. I have to start, though, by saying that I am something of a slow learner. The other awardees that that are going to be recognized, including my friends Paul and Keith, basically came to UD and spent 4 years here and went on to accomplish all the things that are going to be recognized. It actually took 22 years before the school was willing to give me a diploma, so that's definitely the definition of a slow learner. When I was a week old, my parents actually brought me home from Finley Hospital to the house that is immediately a few feet to our right here on the corner of McCormick and Bennett Street. And I spent the next 22 years of my life living on or next to the campus of the University of Dubuque. I've been extremely blessed in my life. I had wonderful parents from whom my earliest memories taught me about and modeled through their daily behavior what it means to live a life of meaning and purpose. I had 3 older sisters, a number of you knew them, all UD graduates who were role models to me when I was growing up and who in their own right lived lives of accomplishment and service. In addition to a wonderful family, I was also blessed to have an incredible extended family, the community known as the University of Dubuque. Webster defines community as, quote, a group of people with common interests living in the same area. So it includes both a place and people in that place. This place, the UD campus, its buildings and grounds hold countless memories and experiences for me that have shaped my life. But it's really the people that I've known on campus over the years that have been most important. I think about the time spent as a young boy in the presence of remarkable people like William Zucker, Marge Kramer, Howard Wallace, John Knox Coit. These are the people I grew up around, and many others. I think of the professors who taught me during the 4 years I was a student in college, and of the students who became my friends and allowed me to be myself, even though my dad was president of the university. And many of them are here today, and I owe you a great debt of gratitude for that. Of course, without a doubt, the greatest blessing of my years at UD was meeting my wife, Peggy, here when we were both students. She's been my partner in life ever since, and each year at homecoming, at least one of my Phi O brothers reminds me that I got the much better end of the bargain on that. My sons heard that countless times last night at the bar over at Old Chicago. We're especially pleased, Peggy and I, to have our sons Jeff and Tim join us here. They've grown up hearing stories about the University of Dubuque, and today they get to experience their own authentic UD experience. And so we're glad to have you guys here. Thank you for coming. For the last 50 years, I've lived and worked in my adopted home of St. Paul, Minnesota. After spending 17 years in the mental health field, I moved into the field of philanthropy for the next quarter century. I quickly learned that I had been given a bird's eye view of many of the most important things going on in my community, whether it was the challenges of public education, the need to build more affordable housing, providing access to health care for the uninsured, or many other issues. People were turning to the foundations that I was helping to lead for assistance. It also gave me a seat at the table with elected officials, corporate executives, community leaders seeking solutions to these challenges. And I learned that with my education and experience from the University of Dubuque, I could hold my own with these folks when we were wrestling with these problems. However, I also learned that major community problems cannot solely be resolved from the top down. Without the legitimate participation in decision-making and implementation from the people most affected by those problems, in our town, often people from low-income communities of color, the solutions will not be effective without their involvement. So that meant learning to share power with others. It's a lesson I learned from the University of Dubuque. One of the things I'm most proud of in my years of leadership at the St. Paul Foundation, in addition to the large financial investments we were able to make in major community projects, is that we became increasingly known as a reliable partner to small community-based organizations that previously had not always had access to the financial resources they needed to do their work effectively. In our community, in any community, there are amazing people and organizations, most of whom we never hear about, that are doing great things if given the resources. And it was a pleasure to be able to partner with them. I'm going to conclude where I began, with the community that is the University of Dubuque. As I said earlier, I've been incredibly blessed throughout my life. One of those blessings was reconnecting with the university 13 years ago when I joined the Board of Trustees. I'm inspired every time I come back to campus. The mission, culture, and people of UD are stronger now than ever. With the leadership of President Bullock and his excellent management team, with the incredible commitment and skill of the faculty and staff making a difference in the lives of students, and with the character demonstrated by the students taking advantages of those opportunities that they are given here, remarkable things are happening at UD. Nothing can be more important in the world we live in today than this work. Today's world needs the University of Dubuque and its graduates. I encourage each of us to stay connected, stay engaged, and do whatever we can to help the community known as the University of Dubuque continue to thrive. Thank you very much.
Our next award recipient today is Dominique Anthony. Dominique graduated from UD in 2007 with a degree in elementary education. An active student while on campus, involved in athletics, student government, and other organizations, she was also a member of the inaugural Went Scholars Program. Since graduating, she pursued an MBA from Texas Tech, worked in real estate for 10 years, and has since founded her own consulting business. Her nomination materials read, Dominique's gift is her passion for giving back. That couldn't be more spot on as you read through the list of organizations and causes that she is a part of. I also asked friend and fellow alumnus Keith Paris to give me 3 words to describe Dominique. His response, quirky, intelligent, and driven. Please join me in congratulating Dominique, this year's Award of Merit recipient.
Thank you so much for this award. Thank you, KP, for the lovely words. Quirky is definitely me. First, I want to say thank you to President Bullock, Dana Bullock, and the University of Dubuque, administrators, faculty, staff, alumni, team, for this award. I am greatly honored. I want to thank my family and my friends who are here to support me, and those also who could not be here to support me. It's funny that John Couchman was just talking about community, because that was also something I focused on in my speech. And I'm so glad he already defined community for us and focused on that greatly. I'm going to go into that a little bit more here today, as community is very near and dear to my heart, something I focus on in Dallas, Texas, where I live at currently. But I had my first example of community here, and the best part of community here at University of Dubuque. I was an RA 3 years here, and in my last year I was an RA in Park Village. And we had a group of RAs. It was a very unique team of leaders, athletes. We did a little bit of everything on campus. But we were such great friends. And I would never forget, we were having one of our last meetings as me being a senior. And we had Joe, we used to call him Mr. Mom. He always made us big treats for each one of our RA meetings. And so he brought us treats, and we were hanging out, and it was like we had this epiphany moment, like this is going to be our last time together as a community. And we went after our RA meeting, had dinner downtown, and I don't know if they still do it, but back when I was a student here, if that was our last meeting, it was around finals time, and it was finals time, and we used to have finals feasts. And we used to love going to finals feasts. Like there would be karaoke and food. I would never pass up on food. So it was about my 3rd time eating that day, because I had Joe's desserts, and then we went to dinner, and then we went to finals feast. And it was just a great overall day. And so with that said, I just want to encourage everybody to continue community where they're at. More than ever, we're in a society that is more disconnected. 1 Peter 3:8 says, and it speaks to having unity of the mind, sympathy, brotherly love, a tender heart, and being of a humble mind. And more than ever, we need to have that community John Couchman speaks of. I live in Dallas, Texas. I have it there. I have roots there. And I try to make sure I bring that to the community I'm in there. And I'm appreciative of University of Dubuque showing me how to have that community, but I implore you all to have that community where you're at also. Thank you so much.
This year's Professional Achievement Award recipient is Barbara Glovik Rechterman. Unfortunately, Barb's travel schedule didn't allow her to be with us today, but I do want to read through some of her achievements and accomplishments because I think it's important for us to remember that she's a part of this alumni family. Barb graduated from UD in 1985 with a degree in accounting. Realizing this wasn't her true calling, she took on a new challenge with Parsons Technology, which later became a company you may have heard of called Intuit. Barb's performance at Parsons caught leadership's attention, and soon she was helping to start up GoDaddy. Her responsibilities as Chief Marketing Officer earned her attention by Forbes as one of the most influential Chief Marketing Officers. You'll remember the GoDaddy commercials from the Super Bowl a number of years ago. That was Barb and her team. Now retired, she's active in the greater Phoenix community, choosing to focus on education and work with local missions. She was thrilled when we contacted her about this opportunity and disappointed she couldn't be here, but did send some remarks. Thank you to the university for recognizing my professional achievement. I've been blessed in many areas of my life. To have been born into a loving and supportive family, to have the opportunity for a great education, to have a career that enabled me to work in accounting, product development, marketing, and operations, and blessed to have had the opportunity to work with great people, building multiple startup companies. I am humbled to be honored in this way, and I thank you very, very much. So, if you join me in congratulating Barb. Mr. Keith Kephart is this year's Service to Community Award winner. A graduate from UD's class of 1966, Keith has dedicated his life to serving young people through countless hours of coaching and mentoring. And just so you all know, he was actually texting with one of our UD students who's interested in getting into strength and conditioning just this morning. So, a volunteer with Kairos Prison Ministry for over 20 years, he's also served with government officials to address prison reform issues and helped to implement programs that seek to improve the lives of former inmates as they are released. In addition, he's coordinated teams to work with Teach My People, a program for low-income students in his community. Join me in congratulating Mr. Keith Kephart, this year's Service to Community winner.
Thank you. This is humbling. Thank you to Dr. Bullock and those like Melissa and Katie have done such an outstanding job. I'm reminded that in the coaching world where I spent a lot of time was that a really successful head coach surrounds himself with the greatest staff. You've done that. Well done. Well done. I have given this a lot of thought. And it has been my prayer that when I get done, you really know that this has nothing to do about me. I'm going to talk to you about what I've learned about love through my journey. And the first 40-some years was what we call conditional. And the last 30-some years has been unconditional. And there is a huge, huge difference. I spent 40-some years chasing that conditional God in my career, primarily as an athlete or as a coach. And it was rewarded oftentimes by either winning or performing well. It was based on performance and execution, moving to that next rung in the ladder, which I think everybody in this room probably to some degree, whether it's even a mom, being successful, feeling good about your day, performing well, executing well, that was my world. And it got rewarded throughout, whether it even started in high school. Steve Nash can tell you, Mike Nash can tell you, we had a really very successful program. Even finished on a positive note at the University of Dubuque. And in my coaching career, was very blessed to have been on Iowa State's first bowl team. And the list goes on, it really does. It was, and Dr. Bullock would say the same thing. Not one man, it had nothing to, not just me. It's a part of the team. It's a chemistry. It's working together. And it was the things that, but you can get caught up in that individual thing real easily. So getting to that next rung on the ladder has relevance. And I was really blessed on my, and I'll end it with this on so far as my coaching thing was, it was when at the University of South Carolina, we had just come back from beating Notre Dame. I love that. I love that. See, in Iowa, I think every Sunday, whether you like Notre Dame or not, you watch the highlights of the University of Notre Dame football game. And when I was at Iowa State, I had to go into the Chicago area and recruit this, the Catholic League, and so good luck against Notre Dame in the Catholic League. That went real well. But we had beaten Notre Dame in South Bend. We're 9-0. We're number 2 in the nation. I don't know about you, but when you get to that second rung from the top, it's really spectacular. It really is. I don't care what you are in life, that's huge. Privileged to have been there. And I can say this, and it's a humble statement, I do know that there are very few coaches who will ever coach will reach that second rung. I got to be there, be a part of that. But how did I get there? That's where the next 30 years came into view, because it wasn't long after that that my ladder crumbled, fell, and I found myself in the desert. Now, there's a place in Leviticus 16, around the 20th verse, where you'll read about the Hebrews placing their sins on the head of a goat and sending that goat in the desert to die. And they call it a scapegoat. If I ever write a book, and I might, I'll entitle it The Scapegoat, because that's what happened to me. But in that desert, I met a man, and his name was Jesus. And that transformed my next 30 years. And so I wanted to serve him, I still want to serve him, making a difference in men's lives that have been devalued. I'm not interested in making their penalty easier. I think, matter of fact, I'd like to see them out breaking up rocks to where they have to think about not wanting to go back in. Turn up the heat. What I am interested in is allowing and enabling them, when they're done, to succeed. They call themselves correctional institutions. Not true. They're not designed to correct. They're designed to penalize. So a lot of these guys, when they get out, they don't know what else to do other than what they did before they went in. My hope with working with some state senators and various other people that I'm trying to work with, that they learn how to be an electrician, a plumber, backhoe operator, something to find value in their lives and other people's lives. That's my hope, that's my dream, and that's what I now do. And so I'm honored to do that. I want to close by reflecting for a brief moment. 57 years ago, I was sitting in Peter Commons. And this blonde walked by. Now, I can tell you this, I do remember this. She had blonde hair down to about the base of her neck, and then here's the part that'll probably shock you for me. She had on black ski pants. Bam. Sue, I couldn't have done it without you. I could not have done it without you. Thank you.
Good job, Jeff.
Well, our volunteer recognition award winner this year really needs no introduction, but I will do my best to provide one. I'm talking about Mr. Paul Clayton. A graduate from the class of 1968 in math. Paul was both class president and vice president of the Phi Omicron fraternity. A career at IBM led him to Tokyo and later back to the East Coast. After retirement, Paul continued to serve his community, working with local low-income high school students, coaching and mentoring them through workshops, helping them gain employment and helping them with college preparation. Paul serves the University of Dubuque in various ways. He has helped with faculty projects and interviews and was instrumental in the Ahead of the Curve initiative, which highlighted the first century of African American experiences at the University of Dubuque. Described by Skip Denham as witty, passionate, and diligent, he is a master at stirring the pot and getting as many alumni back to campus for homecoming as possible. His email distribution list continues to grow, and hey, let's face it, I've even called Paul when I needed to know something. Thank you, Paul, for all you have done and continue to do for the University of Dubuque. Join me in congratulating the one and only Paul Clayton.
Thank you so much for this honor and recognition. Thank you, President Bullock. Thank you, Melissa and Katie. I'm really honored, but at the same time, I have to admit that I'm somewhat embarrassed to get this. And this guy right here, Bill Crandall, has a lot to do with it. Unbeknownst to me, for years, Bill had been trying to contact me. And it wasn't until like 1980 that we finally connected. And he says, Paul, are you thinking about coming back for homecoming? I said, no, I haven't given it any thought, but I'd be interested. He said, well, I'm working on trying to get some folks to come back. And at that time, he says, I've got about 5 guys telling me they're coming back. I said, Bill, I love these 5 guys, but I am not flying back from New York. The time, the energy, and the expense. Can I get an amen for the expense? To come and see 5 guys. So Bill and I started to work together, getting on the phone, sending up smoke signals, stirring up the pot. And that year, we went from 5 to a total of 80 classmates, teammates, fraternity brothers and sisters and their family came back that year. And I owe a lot of that to Bill. Ever since that time, I've had the same thought. I am not going to LaGuardia Airport in New York. So the more I see here, the merrier, and that's what gets me on that plane. When's the last time you've been to LaGuardia Airport? You don't want to go there, trust me. As a matter of fact, I didn't go there this year. I came out of White Plains Airport. Well, ever since then, my list has been growing and growing, and I hope to add all of you to the list to make sure that you come back to the University of Dubuque, back home. In closing, I'd like to say there are some people that aren't here. You look around, you won't see them, but they're here. You might say, who are those people? Jim Martin, John Smith, Rick Vaughn. You may know Ron Sagers. You may know Jeff Dodge. Look around. Trust me, they're here. They are here. On a happier note, you guys are here. And that's what gets me on the plane. So welcome back and welcome home. Have a great time. Thank you. Right. I forgot about this.
We have to have a picture.
Oh, please. I'd like that. I'd like that.
Great job, Ollie.
Thank you, dude. Thank you. Love you guys.
I'd like to invite Rick Ernst, Director of the Sergeant Jeffrey B. Dodge Veterans Center, forward to present this year's Veterans Award for Distinguished Service.
Good morning, everyone. So you can see the bio there on Bob, but I'm going to point out a few highlights of his accomplishments here this morning. Bob experienced some travel difficulties with his schedule going on, and he was unable to be here today. So I got the honor of highlighting some of the great accomplishments he's had. Bob's a class of '53, where he graduated here with a Bachelor of Science in Physics. He was a 4-year football team member, team captain, and he often said that Coach Mercer was like a second father for him. While he was here, he met Isaac Zemperera, class of '52, who got him interested in aviation and meteorology. Bob always felt that UD prepared him to be academically competitive, with the influence of Professors Taylor and Roethlisberger being very important to him over the years. Because of his academics, Bob received a commission into the United States Air Force in 1953. During his time in the Air Force, he served as a meteorologist, a navigator, fire control officer, and a severe weather recon officer. He became a navigator on a variety of aircraft, B-47s, B-52s, FB-111 bomber aircraft for Strategic Air Command. That's a pretty amazing array of aircraft going from propeller-driven to the jet age. He served at a phenomenal time from '53 to '83. Significant change going on. He was one of those change agents. He saw action as a fire control officer on an AC-130 gunship in Southeast Asia. He flew over 25 missions. Let me tell you, as a ground pounder, you really like to see those gunships come in, and they came in low, and they were targets all the time of the enemy, so they were extremely targeted, so they were pretty impressive missions, so Bob was there doing all that stuff. Some of his awards include the Distinguished Flying Cross for his efforts. After getting out of the service, he continued to serve. He retired as a full bird colonel. Less than 2% make that rank, by the way, so that's pretty impressive. He continued to serve with the University of Dubuque Alumni Association and on the board of directors. He helped with several major projects here with the athletic departments. Bob stays busy volunteering yet with his wife, Joan, class of '53, whom he met at UD, the Neighborhood Association, and is also a board member of the Omaha Tennis Association. They've been happily married for 65 years. They have 3 children, Kirk, who passed in 2018, Kristen and Eric, 4 grandchildren, 4 great-grandchildren, and the couple now resides in Bellevue, Nebraska, near Offutt Air Force Base. Thank you, Bob, and you're well-deserved with this Military Award for Distinguished Service. And now, President Bullock, if you could please provide our closing remarks.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Melissa, where did Katie go? She's busy. Imagine that, she's busy this week. Well, let's show our appreciation to Melissa, Katie, and the whole gang. I tell you this, and I've worked with lots of wonderful people, but this is absolutely the best advancement in alumni relations team we've ever had. And I'm just so grateful for all of them and for their work and how they reach out to all of you. They're terrific. I knew Melissa was really good. For some reason, some of you know I'm a Presbyterian minister, and I learned early on, for reasons that to this day befuddle me, that whenever I meet with people start telling me things, I was a 25-year-old pastor. I probably shouldn't tell this story. They're gone now, and they live in Pennsylvania, so you'll never. I was a 25-year-old pastor, and this couple came into my study, and they're in their late 50s, early 60s, and they started talking to me, and they said, well, you know, we're having difficulty in our physical relationship. And I'm like, I wanted to say, I'm a 25-year-old single pastor. What do I know about? Instead, I said, well, tell me more. Well, 2 weeks ago, I'm sitting down with a regular meeting with Melissa, and the next thing you know, I'm telling her all these things about myself. And I'm like, oh my heavens, there's another one. There's another one. So I'm telling you, I'm just warning you, and I'm really happy about this. If you meet with her, just be prepared, because you'll be telling her things about your life that you thought you had to yourself. So welcome home. I want to be brief. Welcome home. And Paul, thank you for that segue. We didn't talk, but you all nailed it. All of you, congratulations, congratulations, and welcome home. If you don't get anything else about this place, it's home. This notion of alma mater is home. And I say home intentionally. We use that phrase intentionally here. We live in an interesting time in our culture. The way I kind of like to think about it is we're a culture in exile. We've kind of lost who we are. We've lost our way. We've lost our place. We're, as Keith mentioned, you know, we're in the wilderness as a culture. And there are lots of reasons for this, and there are no reasons for this. It just is. And that's where places like this excel. We're kind of a home, we're an anchor, we're a place where we know who we are. We know whose we are. We know what we're about. And I think the best way to describe that, if you go look at our new bell tower on the Wallace Common, there's a passage from Jeremiah, and that passage is written at a time when the people of God were in exile. They'd forgotten who they were. They were alone, lonely, lost. They didn't know what they were about. And here comes this crazy prophet, and he says to them, I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans for goodness and not for evil, to give you a future and hope. If there's nothing else that you understand about the University of Dubuque, nothing else, it's not about what students are like when they come to us. It's about the transformation that happens here, so when they leave here, they become these people. That's what we're about. That's what we believe our contribution is for this larger community we know as our world. I got a text late last night. I saw it late last night. Our chaplain, Jim Gunn, who's sitting on my right, he has the longest emails, second only to Joel Samuels, who was our retired librarian. And I used to say to Joel, you can send me as long as emails as you want, but I'm going to read the first page. So Jim has learned that. And he sent me this wonderful note. He said, I thought you might need to hear this during a very, very busy time. And all the names are, I don't know which student he's talking about, and I appreciate that confidentiality. Obviously, he hasn't talked to Melissa, who would get him to share everything. He said, a very, very shy freshman shared what I pasted in below. I met her with the help of a seminary alum who knows her, and she was then convinced to give chapel a try next day, and she took a huge risk out of her comfort zone and signed up for the fall retreat for our campus ministry program. The rest, they say, is history. Here's a note from this young woman. And she said, I wanted to come here, Facebook. I don't know what that means. I don't do Facebook, but for those of you who do, I wanted to come here, and she's writing on Facebook, and just explain how I've been feeling lately. I haven't really updated you all on it recently. I have been great. like really great. I was a little homesick at the beginning of the week and after being at home 3 days, but it's gone now. Why? Because I have a wonderful community. There's your word. My eyes are bad. Okay, because I have a wonderful community on this campus with amazing God-loving people. I have who I like to call, and hope she agrees, a best friend on this campus. Tonight I went and I had dinner with her and we talked a little bit, and it was one of the best nights I've had since moving here. I have a fantastic group to go to homecoming game with this weekend and plans for a game night with them all afterwards. I couldn't be happier with the way things are panning out now. I struggled a lot these last couple of months, but now I think it's all paying off now that I have this community. Dubuque is finally starting to feel like home, and it's one of the best feelings ever, ! So thank you, that's Jim, and to everyone else who helped me get here. If you don't know anything else about the University of Dubuque, that young woman's, that's us. So in Christian love, let's crush Loris. Thank you.
Well, I don't think there's anything much more to say than that. Just a couple housekeeping notes. For the award recipients, you will be announced at halftime on the football field. So please meet me at the football gate, right by the ticket booth, with 6 minutes left on the clock before halftime. And then we'll get you all lined up and ready to go out there. For everyone else, we have, as you've noticed, there's been lots of photos taken this weekend. Those photos will be posted online on our Smug Mug page, our photo sharing site. There are some cards on your tables, so you can take those with you, so you have the links, and you can download and share those photos with all your family and friends. And last but not least, after the football game, we have one last event this weekend to kind of tie up the weekend at Old Chicago. We have our Spartan Nation reunion, so I hope to see you all there. Thank you, and have a great one.